was born and raised in Cameroon. I originally came to the US in 2017. That's about 8 years ago, summer of 2017. We used to go to college in Cameroon back then, before 2017, but we had some political issues, some unrests, some wars and strikes going on. So schools were shut down for a while. That's why I decided to come to the US. I already had some family here in the US. Get a fresh start, find different colleges and maybe even get a job and start a life here. So that's why I decided to come here. This is how life is like. This is how it was like back in the day. I graduated from high school, 2015. Started college the year after. And the way it goes in Cameroon is people usually don't get jobs until after college and maybe even much after. So a lot of the times we are usually heavily dependent on the parents, and much different from here in the US. While in Cameroon, I was studying engineering, mechanical engineering, computer science classes for my major, and it was quite interesting. The professors were really good. As a matter of fact, I started working on a side project. It was for menstrual. It was some sort of a menstrual flow app, to help some younger ladies in some certain part of the country. And then I heard about some group that usually funds startups in Nigeria and in Cameroon, in some of those countries in the west part of the continent. I applied for that, and I actually got qualified to get about a few $1,000s in funding. I think it was supposed to be $5,000, so I could finish building the app and then hopefully make some money. Yeah, the way that group works is if you make money in business, then you have to bank with them. They'll accompany you and everything, and then hopefully when you bank with them, they can also make money and so on. So I was on track to start marketing this app at some point in the near future. That was in 2016. And then now I got there. And then there was all this unrest that started. There were some strikes in that part of the country, and my university shut down. I didn't have access to school or my professors for a while. And then I moved to the US and I abandoned all of that I was working on. Here in the US, I got here 2017. I enrolled in OCCC. That's where I started. So I stayed there 2 years to get an associate, and then I transferred to UCL. I first wanted to transfer to OU, but yeah, they didn't let me transfer because I did not have my transcripts from back home, from Cameroon. I couldn't get access to those transcripts because the political situation was still not stable, and I didn't have access to my school, so I couldn't transfer to OU. So I went to UCO instead. Did another 2 years there, and then from there, I got hired at Amazon. So before graduating, I was already hired at Amazon, and I started Amazon 2022. I have to say that Amazon was my dream job. Stickers, post-its that I had made. Like right now in my living room, I'm working on a project now and some mobile app. And right now in my living room, I have post-its of the name of the app sticking on the wall. I did the same thing when I was thinking of getting a job at Amazon, because it's a little competitive to get a job at one of these big firms. So I had this post-it sticking in my room. I think I had another one in the bathroom, and I had another one in the living room, something like that. I was all over the place. And yeah, I was doing like coding challenges every day for months. And somehow they were able to give me a job offer. So I went there. I started work there in February of 2022. I got an offer before even graduating, but I started work a little bit later, like a few months after graduation. So, and I stayed there for a little bit over a year. And then there were layoffs. I left Amazon and then I got a different job, software engineering job here in Oklahoma City. But for my time at Amazon, while at Amazon, I was working with the supply chain team. So we were part of the small team that would make shipping decisions, optimal shipping decisions as to where products have to go when they leave from the manufacturers. Most of Amazon's manufacturers are based in China. Those that were not based in China would still bring their cargo to these specific ports in China. So each time the goods get to the ports, we calculate the quantity that is on there and we try to predict the demand worldwide. After predicting the demand, then we give certain codes to the ships that are there so that different quantities are taken to different ports worldwide. So a different quantity of a good is going to go to Houston, a different one to California, and so on. And we try to minimize the distance between the port where it lands and the final customer. And in between, we managed this vast network of what we call how do they used to call that? I think it's distribution centers or fulfillment centers of different sizes, just to make sure that the goods are as close to the customer as possible. Yeah. So the goal of our team was to make sure we were able to ship things same day if possible, within hours sometimes or less, at the smallest cost possible. And we did that all based on just forecasted demand. We had researchers in the team as well, and then we had engineers. Yeah, those were very interesting times. We built some mathematical model in code and installed it on multiple servers. And the model will spit out numbers and say, okay, well, this is for this specific good here, this is the optimal distance and so on. And this is the shipping cost for this one, and rank it in a certain way. And we have APIs that will connect to that and share that info with different teams in the Amazon network. Those models were mathematical formulas. The formulas were not made by the software engineers. They were made by the researchers. And the researchers will have access to SQL databases, and they will go through historical data based on season. They'll group that based on seasons. Like right now, I think Amazon is in um, the end of the year. They usually call it. They usually go into code freeze at the end of the year. There's no new code that gets shipped at the end of the year because the volume is so high we can't afford anything to get broken. But they know that they're supposed to go into code freeze because of past data. So since they've been there for quite a while now, the researchers, they have access to all the data, and it's just most of it is, well, the back end stuff, the nicely structured stuff is the SQL stuff. We used to use Redshift for that. So they'll go into Redshift. If you download just data grid in your computer, you'll have access to that and they'll run all these queries. And once they get all that data, they are able to, okay, like make some sort of mathematical relations. Okay, well, this specific quantity, this specific good here, the demand rose from this to this at this season. The other one, the demand rose from this to this season. So how can we make like a formula that can tell you how much is going to be, how much demand is going to be, maybe next year at this time? They'll make a math formula. And when they give us those formulas, we will take that formula now and just maybe like it's a summation of this to this. If that's how those look like. They'll maybe like a summation from, and then they'll give us some sort of limits. And inside there's like there are different variables, X, Y, Z. X is supposed to be this, Y is supposed to be that. And I'll tell you what each one describes. So in code, all those variables, we're going to define those variables and sort of replicate that formula in code and add that to the math model that is already existing. And when we have a new one, a new formula, then we add it again to the math model, and so on and so on. So the math model keeps growing bigger, and it does this computation and this computation and this computation, and it spits out numbers, and people are able to get it from some certain API. That's how it usually works. It's manual, no AI. AI is, in my opinion, I think AI is just more of predictive analysis that is automated. So the way AI is made is just made to give us an answer based on what it has seen before. And how does it see stuff? It just gets trained. So the model is just going to get trained to give an answer based on all the data that has been input before, and just predicts, okay, well, 1 plus 1 may be 2, because from all this data, at some point it was trained to say that, okay, this is how you have to do addition. Or it's not going to, it doesn't have this, it may not have a strong formula in there, but it will just, based on just training and training and training, like, okay, then it will be able to make its own rules and whatnot, and give us some predictions as to what may be right or wrong based on what we are trying to solve, or based on whatever problem we're trying to solve. I think that is AI. It's quite vague, but I think that's at least what I think of AI. AI can do, I think, a lot more than we think it can. Is it doing it currently? No. For tasks that can be performed digitally on your computer or on an electronic device completely from A to Z, a lot of the times I would think that AI can do that pretty easily. Since we do have access to AI from a computer or a device, it's easy for AI to do all those tasks in that same kind of environment. Any task outside of that environment, AI may not be able to do it yet, just because we have not yet harnessed the power of it outside of the device. Well, if a task is not able to, for tasks that are usually not able to get performed fully on a digital device, computer or phone, people would find it difficult to get AI to perform those tasks. Or people would just not want to have those tasks performed by some sort of a machine with no feelings and no emotions. For instance, go into a restaurant. If you want to go to a restaurant and order your food, you'll probably not want your server to be robotic. Some people don't mind, but I do. And if you go to a hospital, you have to communicate with somebody. I prefer a person, not a robot, or artificial intelligence. So that I would prefer to have human interaction. So those are activities that are usually not performed are usually not fully performed on a computer. But anything that is fully performed on a computer usually doesn't need any human interaction. So AI would probably be more efficient in completing those kind of tasks. Now, talking about replacing jobs, I don't think those jobs are going to be, I don't think jobs get fully replaced by AI. I don't think that, because AI is not able to do everything that a person would usually do, because a lot of tasks that are also performed on a computer, um, the tasks are, I would say, multidimensional. They have multiple moving components. Take software engineering, for instance. Writing code is about 10 to 20% of what an engineer does. There's a lot of troubleshooting, and there's what else? Um, Writing reports too. Lots of that. A lot of that, especially in a corporate environment. Maybe a lot more than people would want. And there's also deployment, deploying features or entire new systems, and maintaining those deployments, maintaining the environments where the software is running, testing the software. All of that are different parts of software engineering that AI is not able to do by itself. Because how do you know that a system works well? How do you define that? So is the AI able to um, do a fully functional system exactly the way you would want? I don't think so. You would have to build it piece by piece, and there's a lot of maintenance. You know, there are lots of pieces inside the uh, life cycle of software development that AI is not able to touch. So just spitting out code that is nice and runs is not enough for software engineering as a whole. But if spitting out code was a problem, which is a bit challenging sometimes, you know, you write code and then you optimize, and then you fix bugs inside. That's also part of it. But if one person was able to write this much code and optimize it maybe multiple times, AI will probably write the optimal version of the code from the get-go, giving that person a head start. But the rest of it, the rest of the work still needs to be done by a person or a group of people that know the real requirements of the system. I would want to do something that I'm able to control from A to Z. I can control how it goes to market, whatever it is that I'm building, and also how much money I'm making. That would be nice. It doesn't really matter if it's software that I'm building or not. Um, if I'm able to at least make the decision and say, okay, well, this is exactly what I want to build, and control how it's getting distributed, I'm going to be happy. And I would definitely need to have ownership in whatever I do. My project that I'm working on now, it's a software scheduling platform. It's called Thinstaff. Thinstaff helps healthcare facilities use the right amount of staff in their facilities without using independent contractors and without ever having to fall short of staffing any day, anytime. So in healthcare, there are lots of contractors that get pulled into facilities because there's never enough staff. I think this happens because of poor scheduling. no one fully knows everybody's schedule. And the first people to get notified when there's a vacancy is not the staff. You would think it's the staff, but it's not. The first people to get notified when there's a vacancy is the administrators. And then maybe sometimes not the staff, a lot of the times outside staffing companies. And then sometimes the staff will know about vacancies. Sometimes they wouldn't. So in a day, imagine you need 5 or 10 people that need to work today. And 2 people are on vacation. Lots of the times the staff will not even know that these 2 people on vacation. You just show up and you see that 2 people on vacation. There are other people that could fill in for the shifts. Those people don't know that these other colleagues are on vacation either. The administrators, they knew about it a long time ago because those situations have to get approved somewhere. But now the facility is working short. And patients pay the hefty price. A lot of the times patients get hurt or they don't receive the treatment that is adequate just because there are not enough people. And to remedy that, they'll call staffing companies. And staffing companies charge maybe 2 to 3 times the cost of what they pay to their in-house staff. Companies are just glad to pay that without ever having to fix the communication that they have with their staff. So they're just throwing money out the windows and complaining. There's a lot of complaining about that, but the real problem is never being fixed, which is like, how do you tell your staff on time that, okay, this person called in sick, this person has problems with their, like has their kids that is not coming back, that is coming back late, or maybe they have kids that are not feeling fine, they're not going to show up. Can anyone else come and work in today? How do they make that optimal? How do they communicate that and get people in the building to work? Thinstaff will be able to do that very, very efficiently without ever having to get outside contractors and pay 2, 3 times the amount. So that's what Thinstaff is going to do. And that's what I'm working. We are live on Play Store as of Android users are able to download it. The App Store for iOS users is not yet available, but we are going back and forth with Apple Store Connect to make sure that it's available. In the next few days, it would be available. While doing software, I have always done healthcare as well. I've always been in healthcare. So I've worked as a nursing assistant in multiple long-term cares, assisted livings, nursing homes, memory cares, different kinds of long-term care facilities. And I've also worked at homes. So the long-term care facility that I recently worked at right now, I've been talking to some administrators in there to see if we could reach the decision makers and have them at least look at the platform that I have. I also went around the state of Oklahoma looking for administrators in some of these long-term cares and seeing if I could talk to them about whatever solution that I have. So I think it's mostly just a distribution issue. I have not yet started distributing it the way I would want to. So we are still creating a few landing pages. I have not done that. And online advertising, I have not done at all. I have done lots of physical advertisements. I have currently just 2 facilities that I spoke to that wanted to get onboarded on that. Not wanted to, but they were interested in knowing more. not all the administrators know about what I'm doing yet. So that's about it. But I would need to distribute that. Try and advertise that a little bit more with maybe Google Ads and Facebook. That way you can reach to more people. I don't know how people define vibe coding, but this is how I code. This is how I use AI. I installed Claude AI. I currently have a subscription with them. That's the only one that I use. I don't look at multiple and test drive multiple AI agents. I prefer not to do that. It confuses me. I already have a lot going on. So I installed a CLI on my computer. And while I am working on a certain project, I will give it access to certain directories inside my computer. I put a prompt in. I ask for a specific feature, a button or a page or a screen that does this and that. It writes code for that very, very quickly. That is nice. Validating the functionality, I am not able to get AI to do that. So after that screen is built, then I'll have to, or the screen or the button or whatever feature is built, I have to run the application on top of my device. And then I'll test and make sure that that specific feature works. I use AI in that way. That's one. And the second thing is the data that is being stored or processed. So if I'm trying to, like for instance, the last thing I added on my app was subscriptions. I have multiple subscriptions for Thinstaff. There's a free version, there's a $60 a month version, there's a $350 and there's a $850. How do I implement those subscriptions? I wasn't very sure. So there's a subscription model that I made, and each person will have a different subscription ID. That points to a subscription object somewhere in the database. Now, when I design these specific database instances, I prefer to do those manually because then I have full control of how I am going to relate that one piece of database object to something else. So I sketch that on a piece of paper and then I tell AI, okay, well, I want this and it has to look exactly like this. Don't give me anything else. Give me this one. And AI is going to write that code much, much faster than I would. I may write it and then forget this or that. And my IDE is not going to correct me as fast as AI will do it. AI will write the code and it's going to look clean. These days, it looks much cleaner because a few months back when I was using AI, it wasn't as clean as now. Now the code is very clean and compiles and runs already. Yeah, so that's how I use AI. Yeah, and sometimes I hand over the troubleshooting to AI because sometimes instead of debugging line by line to find a bug, I'll just let AI say, oh, figure it out. I'll say, okay, I have this exception right here. Can you find it? Sometimes it does. When it's not able to find it, the AI would never tell you, okay, well, I don't have a solution for this. It automatically updates my code and adds some more junk code in there and breaks it even more. And if I ask it to fix, then it would break it even more. So sometimes if it doesn't work 1-2 times, I'll have to undo that and manually troubleshoot it. It's a little bit more tedious because, AI is making life so easy that at some point I don't even want to code because it's much faster. These days, like all I care about is how fast can we get done with this and go to market. So with that in mind, you want it to get done fast. You don't want to spend the whole day or 3 hours just going through line by line and then just debugging. But if the AI is not able to do it, then you have to do that. I don't think software is the only field that is lucrative. Anything that involves creation of a service or product would be perfect. For instance, at some point I was thinking of, before Kofi got here, my wife was pregnant. So throughout the pregnancy, we're looking at, well, what are the challenges that we have? What sort of device can we make to ease the pregnancy a little bit? Because we were already spending lots of money buying all these new gadgets. And now that Kofi is here, Kofi has a lot more gadgets. Now, yesterday was Thanksgiving, and we went to this family gathering. There were older people there, some of my older aunts and whatnot. And the older people kept saying, well, back in the day, we didn't have all this. So all these new devices that are being created, I know I didn't create any of them, but I'm buying a lot of them. So who is making these devices? Not me. Why not me? Question mark. So if I'm able to make, even if it's one, a bottle warmer or a cooler to keep the milk cold, or a bassinet, or a toy that makes a weird sound that would calm the baby a little bit more, I should get on that. So that also involves that is also creation of a product that everybody's going to enjoy, and that is very necessary. It's not just software, and for software, someone else outside of the US would be able to make that same system. But I don't think that some people can make a system just like that. I don't believe in that, actually. Someone can just write code and sell it just like you sell it, because people need to face the same problem that you're facing before they are able to make as good of a solution to it. But again, it's not just all problems can be solved with software. You need glasses, you need a shirt, you need headphones. So who is making those? You should make those too. Make them better and sell. That is what I would like to teach my kids.